So my company is called Langford, and so Langford's Excellence has been running for the past 1 year. We started last year in the month of October 2019, and it's been running smoothly so far. Now the thing is, I've been focusing specifically on the business for the past 4 5 months now. The business is specifically into education. So since I was in education before, I've again traversed back into education. And education, in sense, we are focusing specifically on three aspects. One is on educators. So when you say educators, you're talking about teachers, trainers, and second one we have is on research, where we help PhD candidates as well as those who are trying to publish some journals or articles. And third, we're focusing currently on training, where we're talking about soft skill training. So I am a member of Indian Society for Training and Development. And just to be more clear, actually, when you're talking about the educator aspect of it, uh, see, the idea behind Langford Excellence is to, the tagline is be better, do better. So
Wow.
it's to ensure that you're bringing out the better version of yourself so that you can do a much better job.
Hello, guys. Welcome to Workspace Mysteries. Today we have with us Mr. Sean Langford. Sorry, sir.
No,
Uh,
it's just very odd for me when someone says Mr. Sean Langford. I'm like, okay.
but it is like that, right? So,
Getting used to it.
okay. So, sir, you have actually started something of your own. Like, you have quit your 9 to 5 job and you are into the phase of entrepreneurship. So how this came up, like tell us how you started.
Right. First of all, thank you for having me. And so, when teachers, specifically now during the lockdown, there are many cases where teachers have to spend a lot of their time on preparing presentations, and they don't
Yes.
have much time to focus on the research part of it. So that is a very, like, it's a major drawback for them. So they don't get time to focus on the teaching part, nor do they get time to focus on their the research part of it. And I'm pretty sure that you must have spoken to a lot of female faculty, and they would have all said the same thing. For them, working from home and working at home, there is no difference. It's
Yes, very true.
everything. Everything is merged in this for them. So for them, if they have to sit and make a presentation, at the same time they have to go and check the kitchen whether cooker ka kitna CT baja and all that stuff they have to do. So it's difficult for them. So then we are here to help them out. So all they do is they give us the content in terms of syllabus. So since I am a management professor or teacher, I use whatever knowledge I have. Then I go online, research, and basically do their heavy lifting for them, and then give them the final product. At the end of the day, it is always a teacher, obviously, who's teaching. So their style still comes into when it comes to teaching. I just provide the material. Research part of it, again, the same example I'll tell you. When you're sitting and doing research work, you still have to make a presentation for your teaching, and you
Hmm.
have to go and look into the kitchen. There's no time,
Hmm.
especially now during COVID. Everybody has the same thing. What is the impact of COVID on so and so thing? What is the impact of COVID on so and so thing? So sitting and breaking your head on something like this is like, everything is COVID now. Everything is the pandemic. Everything is lockdown. So at some point when you are overstressed, you burn out completely as a faculty. So then because of the burnout, there is no creativity. It just burns out completely. So you
Hmm.
need some outlet where someone is helping you with something. So in terms of research, what we help out is, okay, you give us research work. What we'll do is we'll help you with the formatting part of it. We'll help you create questionnaires or surveys for your research based on what you have with your hypothesis, whatever, and we help
Hmm.
you out with that. So
Okay.
we just try to ensure the fact that your workload is reduced. That's the entire thing.
Okay.
So yeah,
Okay.
Langford Excellence.
So,
It's
actually, I wanted to know like what triggered you to start your own. Like you were a professor in KC College, and you were having a very good job. you worked there for around 3 years. So 3 years is a considerable amount of time when it comes to working these days. Like there are people who shift their job in 2 years, 1.5 year, 1 year भी हो गया तो नया job search करना start कर
Correct.
देते. So in that phase, what was that one thing that actually told नहीं अभी बस हो गया अभी अपना कुछ कर दे. So how that came up?
Okay, to be honest with you, there was no certain point as such, but yeah, okay, I think your word that you used was a trigger point. Yes, trigger point there was. Uh, but let me just point one thing very clearly. When you're saying that 3 years of working with KC College, again, KC College of Engineering and Management Studies and Research. There are two KC colleges. One you have in Churchgate, one you have in Thane. The Thane one was where I was working. Trigger point, if you're going to say, I was working for 3 years in the same college, and during that time, all the problems that I mentioned right now, where faculty are having too much burden on them and stuff like that, I witnessed that firsthand and experienced it actually a lot of the time. Wherein, in terms of experiencing, I'm talking about. So I will not get into detail about certain things, but let's just say the workload that many of the faculty had and I had was not really, how do you say, it wasn't equivalent to what we were supposed to be doing. Like, for example, now in my case, what you would see in college would be me handling some part of the administration part while running across to the college classes and maintaining the discipline of students, as well as having at the same time a lecture in another class. And once all these things get over, so for us, one lecture was 3 hours. We had to take 3 hour lectures. Once that would get over, I'll have to come back down to the admin part of it and then handle some part of it, because our clerk who was there, the admin who was there, she's very efficient. However, she herself was quite overloaded because she had to handle the library as well. So in both the cases, if you go to see, I was seen everywhere. So people would think that isko kuch aur kaam nahi hai. He's just there running around everywhere. And then I realized one thing very clearly is that I am doing all the teaching work, I am doing the admin work, I am doing admission counseling work, training work, placement work. While doing all these things, I was missing out the major aspect or the major component of being a teacher. That was one, teaching, and second thing was improving my teaching, which was getting into research, researching new methods of teaching. Like for example, I can give you one very good example was. Uh, so we had one student. This is one example I give everywhere. Who ever says that teaching is a pain and stuff. This is one example I'll give you. Um, there was a student in the previous batch who had difficulty speaking. Okay, now I'm not talking about having stage fright. So if you notice, when I'm speaking, also either I'm speaking too fast or I'm slurring my words. So even I have a speech impediment. Okay, so it took a lot of time for me to get out on stage and to start speaking. That included a lot of my mom's work. Like she used to kick me on the stage, like, no, you have to go and speak. Whatever it is, you have to go and speak. You people laugh at you, doesn't matter, but you go. So this particular student, I was getting a lot of complaints about him, about the fact that he's not answering in class, he's not speaking in class. So generally, what I have seen as a student is teachers generally, they just alienate such students. They don't focus on them. So you don't understand why that's the case. Now, for him, what I understood was I took him to a side. I didn't blast him, but I asked him, what is the problem? Scene kya hai? So he was like, "Nahi sir, English ka problem hai." So I said, "Sir, English ka problem ki kuch aur problem hai?" He said, then he didn't say, but one of his friends, very close friend of his, he came and told, "Arey nahi sir, wo hakla tha beech mein, isliye wo he didn't say anything." So he was more bothered about the stammering part of it rather than the English part of it. He wasn't bothered with English. And the thing is, with him, he didn't stammer much. He didn't stammer much when speaking to his friends. But if I called him on stage or on the platform and asked him to answer a question or read out some paragraph, he would freak out. Okay, so this was a problem. So this is where this is not exactly research, but being on social media sometimes has its positives. So this was a positive because one article or rather one video I saw on Facebook was this where a similar condition had happened, and the teacher in that case had put his music on for the kid, okay, with earphones and everything. And this kid started like shouting and reading. He can't hear his own voice, so he's reading very loudly,
Hmm.
and he doesn't stammer a second in the while reading it. So
Okay.
you see such things, and you're like, it's fake. सोशल
Hmm.
मीडिया पे कुछ सही नहीं है you obviously it's like 100% fake here. So I was like, what the heck, I can try it out, try and see. I did it. So I have these like hard heavy metal songs and everything, like loud songs. So this guy comes on stage and he's like, sir kya? I said, come on. And the thing is, I have a very stern face in class, so people are under the impression I'm very very strict. So then I said, come on. He frequently come on stage and on at the podium, and I asked him to put his earphones on, and I plug in my music. It's blaring. So he even to ask me, sir, kya kar rahe ho? He's like screaming and asking him, like, sir, kya kar rahe ho? I said, all you have to do is just read this paragraph. So he starts reading very loudly. Okay. He's slow in reading, but he's very loud. So each word that he says, surprisingly, comes out very, very clear. And he stammers, okay, a bit he stammers, but not much. And he's not conscious about the crowd because his ears are like blaring with the music. So he's focusing on the music, he's focusing on the book, and he's not bothered about the crowd because and the music gets over. 6 minute song, the song stops. What I noticed was wherever there was a dip in the music,
Hmm.
his voice volume would reduce, and he would get back to stammering again. Okay, and
Hmm.
at this point, it's not like people are observing him or making fun of him. No, they're like genuinely shocked that this guy can read. He has a voice, and he's quite loud.
Wow.
I saw, I was in tears, but I saw a couple of students of mine who were like literally welling up, and I was like, okay, like, this thing works. So this part of it, this sort of a thing, is where teaching requires some sort of research. And what broke my heart, not broke, but sort of like melted my heart, I would say, was on Teachers Day. This fellow comes on stage and he starts speaking. No music, nothing. He just comes on stage, whether stammering, not stammering. In Hindi, he comes and he just says, like, thank you, sir. This is, and I was like, oh my God, this guy's out on stage and speaking. And he didn't expect it, didn't want it, but this guy comes on stage, I'm like, oh, this, if you don't want to pay me bonus for salary, no problem. Something like this happens is the teacher's best day. That was like the best teacher's day gift I've like ever got. Like, period. That's it. So these things, this happened like in the starting of the first 2 years that I was there. But towards the end, things got a little hectic, and then I understood one thing, that um, when you are involved with molding a child's life. Child, I'm saying, I'm not that extremely old, but if you're involved with molding a learner's life, there's a lot involved in it, and you cannot take the risk of not reinventing yourself, not you yourself, if you don't unlearn certain things. Like, for example, I'll tell you, the 2016-18 batch, the way I taught them, I couldn't teach that same way when I was teaching 2017-19 batch, or the 18-20 batch, or the what's like 1921 batch. I couldn't, because each of these people had a different dynamic altogether. So I had to unlearn the way I was teaching in the first year, experiment, figure out what fits, learn that method, and then again continue teaching. So this was a cycle for me for like 4 years straight. But the, how do you say, the concentration, or the how much I was giving myself in each of these years kept reducing as my workload kept increasing. So there was a lot of work tension. There was a lot of, I wouldn't say work pressure that I could handle, but there was certain stuff happening which I couldn't take after a while. That was a trigger point. So last year, 2019, was when I thought that no, one, I have to make sure that I'm leaving back a legacy. So Langford's name. This actually a student's parent told me that he has spoken to me over the call for admission. He was like, I told him you have to come in so and so day, so on the time. He said okay. So he comes and he's enters. He just walks past me and he goes meets the the HOD, and then so the HOD introduced like, oh, this is Sean sir. He will be helping you out. Okay. So we walked towards the elevator, and the parent asks me, "Yeah, I am looking for a particular professor." I said, "Okay, who?" I don't know. I spoke to an elderly gentleman over the phone, one Mr. Langford. Like, yeah, that's me. He's like, you don't look old. I said, I'm not old. And Langford, I said, yeah, that's my name, but I'm not old. I'm not white. Uh, yeah, so that I was like, that name has an effect or an impact on people when they hear it for the first time. So I said, might as well use it. And I've been told, I'm not sure about this, but I've been told that my name, as a person, my family actually has this sort of quality standard that we maintain. So I said, yeah. So then our standard is excellence. So might as well brand it as Langford Excellence. That's the whole idea behind it.
Okay,
Trigger point, too much work, understood that being a boss of your own self will help me better train students and get them a better future. That wasn't happening, so I had to do it.
nice, nice. So, I have seen your career journey. Like, you have shared me some documents in that. I have seen a lot of job role change. Like, do you feel that like बहुत बार ऐसे चर्चा में होती है कि जॉब डिस्क्रिप्शन देखो रोल देखो you have to join somewhere and then you have to continue hunting for similar kind of role. So is it very much required that हमको similar kind of role में ही जाना चाहिए या we can actually shift? What is the things we should actually concentrate on? Like, I'm asking you this question because you have also worked as a recruiter, so you know, and you have handled the recruitment part of many companies. So would you like to share some details on that?
I couldn't hear you properly, but from what I understand, you were asking that whether what should a person focus on, job description or skills?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I didn't work as a recruiter. I was working as an HR person, and I was recruiting my company, not my company, the company I was working for. But yeah, so what ideally I would suggest from what I've seen is that if you're working the same line of work, for example, if you're working as an HR person, you tend to develop skills over the years, right? So, for example, if you're joining in as a junior executive, you would develop skills specifically more into recruitment and employee handling. And then as you move on, you develop more of a managerial skill set. Okay, so that will be including anything regarding management, whether it's time management, people management, training. Um, so as you in the same line, as you keep moving on, you develop more skills. Now, the issue what happens over here, what I've noticed is, barring a few industries, for example, now अगर supposing हम लोग बोल रहे marketing की cases में, marketing cases में क्या होता है कि the person who's selling, let's say life insurance, might not be having a certain skill set required to sell properties to clients. You're getting it? So the basic skill is the same. You have to be able to convince people, but the strength behind the convincing is the knowledge of the product, right? So the insurance agent or the life insurance agent will be having more knowledge about us. Now my point being over here is that if you are working along the same line of work or the same job profile, it is good. It pays much more, pays in the sense that since you have a set number of years of experience, as you move down the line, people see that, okay, this person has been there so many years in this industry. Like when you were talking about this, when you were introducing me also, you said the same thing. 3 years in one job role or in one company is a big deal nowadays. So if you see my career growth, I was working as an HR, I was a business development manager, and then I came into teaching. So what you would see is that the number of years in each of these things, it's different. So, but your major focus was on the fact that I'm a teacher as opposed to the remaining two. You're getting it? So, if one person is working in one particular job role or one particular line of work, not job role, one line of work for a longer period of time, they themselves develop skills. And they are focused on the fact that their experience in that particular industry is growing. Now, when your industry experience grows, you are already automatically gaining certain skill sets which can be used in different industries. Very simple example for this would be, agar supposing you are a manager, the role of a manager throughout those industries have a very common base. Okay, different departments, you have cases where an HR person ends up leading a marketing team, marketing person ends up leading an HR team. You have such cases where vice versa happens because of the skill set, because of their strengths. Okay, now if you're going to ask me whether shifting job roles is a good idea, I would say definitely, but at the right age. If you're at the start of your career, when things are still new to you, that would be a right time for you to experiment. If you are in the financial capacity to do so, that should be very clear. Many cases, what happens is that people who are joining a job, they work there for 6 months probation period and then they skip. Once they skip, actually nowadays 6 month job experience is not counted at all. It's equivalent to being a fresher. You have to work at least a year. They skip from one job role to another job role. Now the same case happens is the companies don't hire them because they only have 1 year and that would not in a relevant field. So if you are working as an HR person in, let's say, for example, a banking industry, and then from there you're going to shift and become, let's say, a marketing person for a tourism company, two different fields, two different job roles, you have no experience. So you are now considered a fresher in this new area of work. So if you have the financial capacity to, maybe drop a salary range and then experiment something new, I would say go for it, because then you will, one, earn new skills, two, know where your strength lies, and three, more specifically, you will know what exactly you're made for. I think that is what I would say. So if you have to decide between job skills, job roles, and job description, I would say stick to what you do best, stick to your environment. If you feel that your financial capacity is good, experiment. If you think that you need to focus on supporting a family, stick to your role, grow in your role. If you feel you're strong, then jump. Others don't.
So yeah, I actually agree on this point. Like if it depends on the situation where you are, and depending on that, you have to decide what is best for you, depending on the scenario and all those things, family, everything you have to consider, and then shift on to whatever is best. So yeah, there's one thing I noticed, like you have studied half your life in UAE and the rest half, like the schooling was in UAE and the other parts was in India. So what is the diversity you found in education? Like now you are totally into education line only. So you can actually tell us a little more about that.
Um, okay. So I did my schooling till 8th in Abu Dhabi, UAE. Then did my ninth in Bangalore, boarding school, failed, came back to Abu Dhabi, continued till my 12th, then went came here to Mumbai. No, I did my aeronautical engineering in Chennai. I didn't complete it. Did 3 years there, and then came to Mumbai to do my BMS in finance. So what you'll notice over here is I've done education in Bangalore, Chennai, and Mumbai in terms of Indian education. And then in Abu Dhabi, again, I did my CBSE schooling there. So what I have noticed along with my friends as well, we have all noticed the same thing. In UAE, we had more of teachers who would relate to us. I think it was more along the lines of that, outside India, all Indians are best friends. Okay, so it's like how supposing like okay, so me as a Keralite, if I go outside and I see another outside means like outside India, outside wherever, and you see another Keralite, or you like, oh, it's like you see a long lost family member. It is so. I think it is something that has something to do with the fact that somehow almost all the teachers back in UAE would find a common ground to relate with us. Um, but once I came down again, now see, in all the three cases, I'm an outsider. Okay, whether you're talking about Bangalore, whether you're talking about Chennai, or even Mumbai to some extent, I was an outsider because, uh, NRI was the brand that was given to me. Bangalore, I didn't have that much of an issue, but what I understood over there was the board was different. It was an ICSE board. So CBSE to ICSE was quite a leap. And if you're asking teaching wise, they were very strict. They were very strict. They were focusing a lot on your textbooks. You have to read a lot from your textbooks. You have to read a lot, regarding your anything. Just read. Reading was very important in Bangalore. Uh, Here in Chennai, what I understood was they focused a lot on since this was engineering, so they were talking more about the possibilities. Like for example, when we were doing our aeronautics, I remember they were supposed to be they encouraged us students to write research papers. So you know, they would force us, not force, I would say encourage us to think more. Um, for me personally, I had a drawback because I wasn't from Chennai, so I wasn't too very good with the Tamil. But certainly, what I could pick up was, okay, do this. And then when student asked the question, why should we do this thing? They would say that, okay, this concept is used here. You can use this concept here also. So Jugaad that is there that we learn while working, these guys taught us during engineering. Like AC doesn't work. So when we were in the hostel, we learned this thing that we don't have a fridge, and we had the Pepsi cans and stuff, which is like quite warm. So we had students who would like open the AC and switch the AC on and keep the the Pepsi cans and stuff for us. So the cooling would be there and keep the the Pepsi is cool. So we learn this kind of stuff, and even the people, the professors and the lab assistants helped us in that. So yeah, they would focus a lot on the possibilities of what you're learning and where it could be used. When I came here to Mumbai, what I noticed was question banks. Question banks was something. It was an absolutely new concept to me altogether, because when you're shifting from CBSE, there is no question bank. Textbook hai, textbook पढ़ो, रट्टा मार के जाओ exam में. That's what's coming. ICSE, you don't have any idea of what is coming from which part. I mean, we have like 300 pages, 400, 300 pages books, and you'll get one 10-mark question maybe from one sentence hidden in the back of the last page of the textbook. It's like you don't know what's coming from where. And then from all that, these are 20 questions. 20 questions में से 10 question आने वाला है. So it was that was a very dramatic shift for me. That same thing, I mean, that was there in both, whether you're talking my bachelor's or my master's, both I've noticed the same thing, which is something very, very weird for me. Question bank is something which I don't agree with. Why are you studying that?
Yeah, exactly. We didn't have an engineering. So in engineering, we don't have question bank. So we didn't have textbooks, and we didn't have even like notes bhi nahi dete the. You have to study by your reference books here. They will teach us, jot down your notes and study. That was the
exactly
thing.
So what I mean, I think even you will agree to this when you're saying, like, the same thing happened with me also. But when you're saying this, they are teaching a theorem on the board. Okay, they're not asking you to write it down. They will not ask you to write it down. They will just come to the class, and then they will start with the final problem on the final formula on the board, and they start the derivation of that. And they'll give you shortcuts also. Instead of using this, you can use this. You don't know this while they're speaking subconsciously or whatever it is. They're just saying this. Okay, instead of putting 2 plus 2, you can put 2 into 2. Example. So you have to be really attentive, and they won't tell you to write notes. They won't tell you specifically this shortcut is very important. You have to know what's important, jot everything down, and then go ahead with your thing. So that is what is studying. Like, you need to know actually what is important, write it down, and have a gut instinct. That is one thing which I would really say is missing in a lot of students now. Gut instinct. Like, you have 400 pages. I've had cases where I would just get up in the morning. I have not studied anything. I would open the page. Yeah, I think this is important. This will come. That same question will come for the examination. This has happened on all of my final examinations, and that's one thing I work on, because We've had this. You don't know what's important. You don't know what's going to come. You have a gut feeling ki, "Huh, this has been there for the pattern in the last 5 years, last 2 years. This pattern was there. This might not come. This wasn't there last year. This might come." But because of the question bank environment, the culture, that has just it's become like an appendix. It is there, but there's no use of it. Books are there. Why do you need a textbook? जब question bank मिलने वाला है? See, that's the point. So yeah.
Absolutely true. Yeah. So you have worked in KC College as an assistant professor. So can you tell us what was the impact of that role in your overall development, in your development
As a teacher, as a person,
as a person?
as a person. Um, okay, I think this is a platform, and I'll tell you this very, very openly. I'm a person who's never sat in class. Okay, I'm a last bencher, backbencher. So I learned this term from mom because she herself was the last bencher. So was dad. It's called LLB. Okay, Lords of Last Bench. LLB. So we were Lords of Last Bench, where we on a two-seater bench, it was four of us, and all of us were having stomach pain because we all head down. So these are the time when you had those keypad phones, you know. So looking on top, and okay, that 5 is here, so that is 5 is JKL. JKL or top diagonal will be your DEF. So this is the kind of chatting that we used to do. So being a last bencher, a backbencher, over the years, you tend to make fun of teachers a lot, and then you don't really realize as to how difficult it is for a teacher. And then and vice versa also, because then when you get onto the stage as a teacher, and then you see the front benchers get a lot more attention. So the attention span, or the focus of attention, keeps reducing as the bench moves backwards. So if it's the front bench, they get a lot of attention. Oh, do you understand this? Okay, do you understand that? Do you have any doubt? Because they know for the fact that the last benches are either sleeping, hiding and eating food, on the phone, or sleeping. So it's like something like that. So it's like if they're going to ask a question, also they know there's no answer going to come from them. So that's one thing I understood, that it's not always true. True, not always true. Because again, I'll pick another example from this. A student in the class was actually called a class clown because he used to crack jokes for every single thing. And I had complaints from the teachers on a regular basis that this guy's cracking too many jokes in class and stuff like that. So he's basically what you would describe as a backbencher, not attentive, cracking jokes at every single thing, and filthy jokes. Okay, now I'm a backbencher. I have a dirty mind, and I know those filthy jokes, and I can't stop laughing half the time. But as a teacher, I can't do that. So I caught him once. Caught him in the sense that he cracked some joke at a question that I asked. And see, when you see me initially, you don't think I'm a teacher. You think I'm a student. That's something that I had to develop over the years. Like become very, very serious and become very, very strict for people to actually. People, I mean, not students. Students took me seriously the very first day. After the first half hour of the lectures gets over, they start taking me seriously. But I'll be very honest with you, throughout the years that I've worked, maybe it's my impression, I don't know, but I've not been taken seriously as a colleague or as an equal. Because you see me, you don't think I'm 30 or 31. He's just passed out from college. He's like very new. I look very, very new sometimes. So I felt more at home with the students. And what I understood was that this particular student, um, I would call him out. He cracked some joke on my question, and I asked him that, okay, fine, your answer was not exactly wrong, but give me the proper answer for it. This guy literally, he didn't take a minute to think. His question was immediate. His answer was immediate. He knew the answer. He was attentive in class. He was cracking joke because he was getting bored, but he was attentive. And that was what I understood was that this actual behavior, if you go to see, if you take any person, okay, those who had some meaning in life or those who had some aim in life, if they were last benchers, they have 100% become some sort of something in life. Not me, I'm not putting me as an example, but somebody else also, if you've seen, if they have been last benchers and they have, paid even like the microcosm of of attention in class, they have become something because they are not limited to textbook, because they have not come to class. Okay, they have not studied from the notes that they're done in class. They have gone home, they have borrowed somebody's textbook, they have found out ways to copy, they have gone online, found out new answers which don't even exist, and then they've come written the answers. The creativity exists in that scenario, so they yearn to think something, they want to think. This is what I understood, and this is what I understood, that as a teacher, as a person, I have to constantly keep growing to match up with them. If I don't, I become a dinosaur. So whether it is in terms of teaching or whether it's in terms of finding out a new meme, because in between a new meme came out, I didn't even know about it. They were like, "Kya sir, aap bhi?" I was like, "Bro, ye kabhi nikla?" So it's like apparently there's a new meme about it's all business, it's all business. I'm like, "Kya bol raha hai?" Then you show me the meme, ki, "Sir, ye meme hai karke." I'm like, "Oh shit, okay, I get it now." So yeah, as a teacher, you not only have to be updated with your PhD theses and your journal articles, you also have to be up to date with technology and your memes specifically, because you don't know when you become a meme. I have become memes. I know that. I have got two of those memes. I know that. So yeah, I mean, yeah.
So would you like to give some message to your students through this video?
Past students of mine who are always going to be my students, present students of mine who will always be my students, future students of mine, wherever you are, please come to me. But the answer, I mean, my tip will always be the same. Problems will always keep coming, and they will always keep coming in different forms which you won't even expect. The only way that you will be able to survive any of these problems if you don't stop learning, whether it is learning how to use a new technology, whether it's learning how to use Zoom, whether it's learning how to find out whether virtual backgrounds hai ki nahi Zoom mein, whatever be the case, you have to start learning. You have to continue learning. If you stop learning, you stop moving. If you stop moving, you don't get new jobs. You don't get a new look on life, and that's just boring. It's very boring. This is something which is because Langford excellence over time is, I'm not supposed to say this, but over time it is supposed to be evolving into an educational institution. So the idea is to become Langford's Excellence Institute of Management Studies or stuff like that. So this same thought process is supposed to be going in that, which is why this is what I want for students, to keep growing, to keep learning, to become better, to do better, and be better, do better.
Nice. One last question before closing. Yeah. What is the USP of your brand? Like, who can approach you and how they can approach you? Can you tell them, like?
Yeah. So the target audience, or rather the focus group of the focus of our company is anyone who's in education. Could be teachers or students both. The USP is that we always give quality at a very low cost, because we understand teachers and students, we understand their pocket, this thing. So yeah, it's high quality, no compromise, and low cost. Where can they find us? They can find us at www.langfordexcellence.com. And also on YouTube. We're there everywhere. We're there on Instagram, we're there on YouTube, we're there on websites, we're there on Facebook. We also are actually opening up, I mean, it's already active right now. We have writers who want to be bloggers. So my website does actually work as a platform, as a platform of writers to come and write something. So we have a total of 4 writers right now, including me. So an active blog post also there. If you get bored of your everyday life, come and read how one bad day can be a very bad day for a teacher.
Okay, thank you so much for coming to my platform and sharing your knowledge. and I would actually put down your details on the description box so that my viewers can actually contact you and access the benefits. Apart from that, it was wonderful meeting you on this virtual platform, and I hope best wishes to you and Landford Excellence to reach Landford Excellence Institute of Management Studies. It will definitely, and we are with you. We will definitely support you. So that's all. If you would like to say something, we can just say and close it up.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for having me on the virtual platform. Amazing questions, very enlightening questions. I haven't thought about those things in a very long time. It was fun being here. It was fun being interviewed, and yeah, we should do this more often, but more as a hi, what's up podcast. But it was fun. Thank you for having me. And for your viewers, do like, share, subscribe to Workspace Mysteries. Have fun.
Okay, then. Bye.
Bye bye.